You will never be rich so long as you march with the herd. The masses cling to comfort, to illusions, and to rules written to keep them obedient. If you wish for wealth, you must stop thinking like the many and begin thinking like the few who command them. History has shown me one truth. Wealth is not a matter of labor, but of perspective. The multitude exhaust themselves chasing coins, while the cunning reshape entire economies with a single decision. Most men crave safety, applause, and belonging, and in doing so, they trade away their chance at true power. In this discourse, I will show you why the thoughts of the common crowd are your greatest enemy, and why riches will forever elude you unless you dare to separate yourself from their chains of mediocrity. Look at the crowd. They move as one. Not because they think, but because they fear being alone. The herd follows stories whispered to them by rulers, priests, and merchants. They are told how to live, what to buy, what to value. And they obey, because to resist is to stand out, and standing out means risk. But here is the truth: wealth has never belonged to the obedient. It belongs to those who break away. Consider the peasants of medieval Europe. They worked from sunrise to sunset, generation after generation. Their toil built castles, filled coffers, and funded wars. Yet they themselves remained in rags. Why? Because they all believed the same lie, that hard work was noble and suffering was virtuous. A convenient illusion crafted by their masters. Do you see the same illusion today? Most people still cling to the same chain, believing that if they study hard, work long, and remain loyal, fortune will reward them. But who truly prospers? The employers, the bankers, the few who control the system, not the millions feeding it with their sweat. The herd accepts these rules because they are afraid of isolation. They are terrified of being judged as different, greedy, or selfish, and so they embrace poverty disguised as virtue. Now ask yourself, do you want to be applauded by the masses or envied by them? Wealth begins with separation. The shepherd never walks with his flock. He directs them, he uses them, but he is never one of them. The rich think differently, not because they are blessed, but because they refuse to accept the collective narrative. The crowd says, money is evil. The wealthy say, money is power. The crowd says, play it safe. The wealthy say, risk is the price of freedom. History offers endless examples. Take Rome. The plebeians gathered in the forum, clamoring for bread and spectacle. They thought themselves powerful because they were many. But in truth, they were manipulated by a few senators who understood their hunger. The crowd got entertainment. The elite got empire. This pattern repeats endlessly. The masses trade obedience for comfort, never noticing the chains grow tighter. And yet, you may still hesitate. You may think, but if I separate, I will be hated. Correct. The herd despises the wolf who refuses to graze beside them. But would you rather be loved as powerless, or feared as powerful? Psychology explains this instinct. Humans are wired for belonging. The tribe meant survival, exile meant death. But in today's world, this instinct becomes a trap. Belonging now means conformity, mediocrity, servitude. To become wealthy, you must resist your own biology, rejecting the safety of the herd for the danger of independence. Look carefully at the wealthy around you. Do they live by the same rules? No. They create the rules. They know that mass opinion is a tool, not a truth. They exploit trends, shape desires, and manufacture beliefs, while the herd blindly consumes. Think of the businessman who convinces millions to buy water in bottles, when the same water flows freely from their taps. He understood that the herd can be made to follow any idea, if it promises status or security. He becomes rich not by labor, but by steering the collective mind. Now reflect on your own thinking. Do you repeat the phrases the crowd repeats? Do you take advice from those who have nothing, Do you find safety in agreement rather than in results? If so, you are still grazing among them. Understand, breaking from the herd is not about arrogance. It is about clarity. To see what others refuse to see, and to act where others hesitate. It requires a tolerance for solitude, for criticism, for suspicion. It also opens the door to the power and riches the many will never touch. Every great fortune in history began with a betrayal of the herd's beliefs. The merchants who dared to cross seas against superstition, the thinkers who challenged the church's doctrine, the rulers who seized opportunity when others prayed for stability. They all broke away, and in their separation, they found dominion. So, ask yourself again, will you remain among the herd, comforted by their applause, shackled by their poverty? Or will you step aside, into the cold clarity of the few, where wealth begins and power multiplies? The decision is yours, but know this: the herd will never forgive your departure. And yet, they will secretly admire you for it. Because deep inside, even the most obedient sheep envies the wolf. And if you are ready, let us go further. For the next chain we must break is even stronger, the illusion of hard work. They tell you that hard work is the path to wealth. That if you labor long enough, remain loyal, and sacrifice your time, fortune will eventually reward you. This is the oldest lie in history. Hard work builds wealth, yes, but not for the one who works. It enriches the master. It strengthens the empire. It fattens the ruler's treasury. The laborer's sweat is a gift to someone else's ambition. Look at the pyramids of Egypt. Do you think those monuments of power were built by pharaohs sweating under the sun? No, they were built by countless laborers who lived and died in obscurity. The glory went to the ruler, while the workers were discarded like tools once their use was over. The same truth exists today. The modern worker, chained to a desk or a factory line, believes he is climbing toward wealth. But in truth, he builds the wealth of shareholders, executives, and dynasties that will never even know his name. Do you see the trick? The illusion is simple. Convince the masses that effort alone brings riches, so they never question why their effort only breeds exhaustion. You are told, work harder. But harder at what? Harder for whom? The man who digs a trench all day works harder than the man who owns the trench. Yet, who is wealthy? Not the one with broken hands, but the one with the contract. Consider the industrial age. Children worked 12-hour shifts in factories, women labored in mills, men risked death in mines. And who prospered? The few families who owned the factories. Their names are remembered as dynasties of wealth. The countless who labored, forgotten. So I ask you, if hard work alone guaranteed wealth, why are graveyards filled with men who worked themselves to death but left nothing behind? Wealth is not born from effort, but from leverage, from placing others to work for you, from turning systems, ideas, and time itself into servants. The farmer breaks his back in the field. The landowner rests in the shade and grows richer from every harvest. But here lies the deeper psychological trap. The masses cling to the belief that effort is noble, that suffering proves worth. They want to believe that endless labor will one day pay off, because the alternative, that they are pawns in another man's game, is too bitter to face. Rulers exploit this weakness perfectly. They praise the workers' dedication. They award medals for service. They create slogans: work hard and you will succeed. The worker feels pride, not realizing pride has replaced reward. Even religion has been weaponized to reinforce this illusion. How many faiths glorify struggle, sacrifice, endurance? The worker accepts poverty, believing his suffering earns him honor, or paradise after death. Meanwhile, the wealthy enjoy their paradise here and now. You must decide which game you are playing. Are you chasing honor, or are you chasing wealth? The two rarely coincide. Ask yourself. If effort was the measure of fortune, would the single mother juggling 3 jobs not be richer than the banker? Would the builder of skyscrapers not surpass the owner of the skyscraper? Yet reality shows the opposite. So what separates them? Strategy. Control. The ability to position others so that their effort flows upward, into your hands. Think of the merchant who hires sailors to brave storms and pirates while he waits in safety. He risks capital, yes, but not his life. When the voyage succeeds, the sailors earn wages, he earns fortunes. Who worked harder? The answer is obvious. But who became wealthier? The one who understood leverage. Modern society hides this truth behind polite words. Instead of calling you a servant, it calls you an employee. Instead of chains, you are given security. Instead of obedience, you are told about loyalty. And all the while, your sweat enriches another. This is why the wealthy often appear lazy. They are not lazy, they are strategic. They know that the hands of 10,000 workers can move mountains while they only move pens. They understand that the illusion of hard work keeps the herd docile, while they reap the rewards of orchestrating. So ask yourself again, are you working hard, or are you working effectively? Are you chasing exhaustion or control? Because here is the bitter truth. The one who labors the hardest often dies the poorest. The one who manipulates labor becomes the master. And if you wish to ascend, you must break free from this lie. For the next illusion is even darker. One designed to chain not only your body, but your very mind, the psychology of scarcity. Why do the poor remain poor even when opportunities surround them? Because they are trained to see lack where abundance exists. This is the psychology of scarcity, the most subtle chain of all. The masses are taught that wealth is limited, that only a chosen few may possess it. They are told that resources are scarce, that success is rare, and that to chase more is greedy. This belief ensures obedience. For if people think there is never enough, they stop competing, and instead, they cling desperately to scraps. Consider ancient Rome. The emperors distributed bread to the plebeians, not because food was scarce, but because controlling supply meant controlling loyalty. By convincing the people that their survival depended on the ruler's generosity, Caesar secured not only their obedience, but their silence. The crowd begged for rations, never questioning why the empire's coffers overflowed with wealth seized from conquered lands. The same game is played today. Governments, corporations, and institutions keep you fearful of losing what little you have. They design markets that inflate prices, limit access, and manufacture shortages. The goal is not to reflect reality, but to instill dependence. Have you ever noticed how companies create false scarcity? A limited edition product. A horn-time offer. A countdown clock ticking away. These are not reflections of reality, but manipulations of psychology. They force you into panic, into submission, into buying not from need but from fear. Scarcity controls not only wallets but minds. The worker clings to a low-paying job, afraid no other will come. The student accepts crushing debt, convinced education is scarce. The consumer rushes to buy, believing supply is vanishing. All the while, those who understand the illusion are the ones orchestrating it. Now ask yourself, how often have you made choices, not because it was the best option, but because you feared missing out? That is scarcity whispering in your ear. The wealthy exploit this fear endlessly. A banker convinces millions that credit is scarce, so they pay interest for decades. A landlord convinces tenants that housing is scarce, so they accept rising rents. A ruler convinces citizens that freedom is scarce, so they surrender it for security. Scarcity is the perfect tool, because it keeps the herd fighting among themselves. When men believe there is only a little, they turn on each other rather than on the one who owns everything. Look at history's famines. Often, food existed in abundance, but it was withheld, redirected, or hoarded to maintain power. The masses starved not because the earth failed, but because rulers understood that hunger breeds obedience. A hungry man does not rebel, he begs. And you, are you begging without realizing it? The modern world convinces you that wealth is scarce, that only geniuses, the lucky or the corrupt may obtain it. But look closely. Wealth is not scarce. It is merely concentrated. It moves from weak hands to strong ones, from the gullible to the cunning. It is not a river running dry, but a river diverted. Psychology explains why scarcity blinds the mind. When you feel there is not enough, your brain narrows its focus to immediate survival. Long-term strategy disappears. You cannot think of empire when you fear hunger. This is why rulers keep the herd anxious. Because desperation makes men predictable, and predictable men are easy to control. But the cunning know better. They step outside this illusion. They see abundance where others see lack. They understand that wealth is not waiting to be given, but to be taken, redirected, controlled. Think of the merchant who buys when others panic, who sees opportunity in crisis. While the masses hoard scraps, he gathers fortunes. Not because there was more available to him, but because he did not see scarcity. He saw strategy. So I ask again, is the world truly scarce, or is your vision clouded by fear? Most will never answer this. They will cling to their crumbs, defend their illusions, and curse those who rise above them. But if you are to break free, you must train your mind to see the abundance that hides behind the curtain of fear. Because once you understand scarcity is manufactured, you begin to see how perception itself can be controlled. And perception, more than any coin, more than any blade, is the weapon by which the powerful rule. And that is where we go next. Wealth is not only measured in gold or land, it is measured in perception. For if men believe you are powerful, they will treat you as powerful. And if they treat you as powerful, soon you truly are. The masses think wealth is about possession. But possession without perception is fragile. If the world does not see you as rich, your fortune is invisible. If they see you as rich, even when your coffers are thin, opportunity floods to you. Consider the Medici of Florence. At times their actual gold reserves were modest compared to the empires of kings. Yet their influence was vast because they controlled perception. They funded artists, cathedrals, and spectacles that convinced all of Europe they were the very embodiment of wealth. The illusion created loyalty, fear, and envy. And in the world of power, illusion often matters more than fact. Do you understand the advantage here? While others slave to gather coins, you can command them by shaping how others see you. Appearances dictate reality. Think of Julius Caesar. Before he conquered Rome, he was deeply in debt. But he spent lavishly, appearing as a man of limitless resources. Crowds adored him, allies rallied to him. Creditors feared to press him, because perception made him untouchable. And in time, the illusion gave birth to the empire. This is the cold truth. People do not follow wealth itself. They follow the appearance of wealth. They are seduced by symbols, clothes, titles, displays of confidence. They mistake these symbols for substance, and you can use this blindness to your advantage. Ask yourself, how often have you respected someone simply because they looked successful? A suit, a car, a calculated tone of voice, small signals that bend the mind of the observer. You may not admit it, but perception shapes your instincts more than facts ever will. The psychology is clear. Humans are storytellers by nature. They crave narratives more than reality. If you craft a story of yourself as powerful, they will believe it, even against evidence. If you project uncertainty, they will doubt you, even if you hold treasure. This is why rulers stage grandeur. Palaces, crowns, ceremonies, all designed not for necessity, but for perception. The king without a crown is merely a man. But the man with a crown, even of cheap metal, is treated as divine. Do you see how dangerous this game becomes? Once you grasp it, you realize truth is secondary. What matters is belief. In commerce, this principle builds empires. Companies sell water in bottles, diamonds at absurd prices, or brands that promise status. The product itself is ordinary, but perception transforms it into luxury. The masses willingly pay fortunes, not for the object, but for the story attached. So the wise man asks not, "What do I possess?" but rather, "What do others believe I possess?" Even in your personal dealings, perception rules. A leader who appears decisive gains followers, even when his decisions are flawed. A man who appears confident attracts opportunity, even if he trembles inside. And the one who appears wealthy gains credit, partnerships, and influence far beyond his actual holdings. But beware. Perception is a double-edged sword. If it shatters, the illusion collapses with violent speed. Think of kings overthrown not because they lacked power, but because they lost the appearance of it. Once subjects no longer believed, their armies melted away, their courts abandoned them, and their crowns fell into dust. Thus, the art lies in balance. Show strength, but not arrogance. Display wealth, but with purpose. Project confidence, but calculate carefully. Your image must be crafted like a weapon, polished, sharpened, wielded with intent. Now ask yourself, are you shaping perception, or are you its prisoner? Do others believe in your strength because you crafted it, or do they ignore you because you allowed them to write your story for you? The herd may never question appearances, but you must. For to master perception is to master the very fabric of human belief, and that is richer than any coin. And yet, there remains a final step. To not only reject the herd, not only escape the illusions of labor, not only dismantle scarcity, not only command perception, but to sever yourself entirely from the values of the many. For true wealth demands ruthlessness, and ruthlessness is the subject of our next lesson. If you wish to rise above the herd, you must cut yourself away from its values. Not politely, not gradually, ruthlessly. The crowd worships humility, fairness, equality. These are chains disguised as virtues. They keep men tame, compliant, predictable. And so long as you bow to them, wealth will remain beyond your grasp. Understand this: the wealthy are not bound by the morality of the herd. They shape their own rules. They separate themselves not only in wealth, but in mindset, in action, in the very standards they live by. Look to history. The nobles of Europe spoke of honor, yet they taxed peasants into starvation. The merchants of Venice preached fairness, yet they monopolized trade routes and destroyed rivals. The rulers of kingdoms spoke of service to God, yet they hoarded treasures in gilded palaces. They all proclaimed virtue publicly, while practicing ruthlessness privately. Do you see the lesson? Those who climbed to power understood that wealth requires separation. You cannot think like the poor and hope to become rich. You cannot cling to their illusions and expect to rule over them. And make no mistake, the separation will cost you. The herd will despise you for it. They will whisper that you are arrogant, greedy, selfish. But their hatred is only proof that you have broken free. Ask yourself, do you seek approval or do you seek power? The two cannot be held together. The psychology of the herd is simple. They punish difference. They mock ambition. They try to pull down anyone who dares rise above them. Why? Because your separation exposes their cowardice. If you succeed, you prove they could have chosen differently. And nothing terrifies the masses more than a mirror showing them their own weakness. That is why separation must be ruthless. Half measures will not do. If you attempt to keep one foot in the herd and one foot outside, they will drag you back. You must sever ties completely, not with people, but with their values. The wealthy do not ask, Is this fair? They ask, does this increase my power? The wealthy do not ask, will I be liked? They ask, will I be obeyed? Look at the great conquerors. Alexander was loved by some, hated by many. Yet none could deny his rule. Genghis Khan was feared across continents, yet his dynasty endured. Even modern magnates, praised on the surface, are despised by millions. But their separation, their refusal to live by the crowd's rules, is exactly what gave them dominion. And still you hesitate. You worry, but if I separate, I will be alone. Correct, greatness is lonely. The summit has no crowd, yet what is better? To live among the herd, safe and small, or to stand alone above them, commanding. Even psychology confirms this truth. The need for belonging is strong, yes. It is also the very root of mediocrity. The more you crave acceptance, the more you chain yourself to the herd's limitations. To break free, you must develop tolerance for isolation. You must welcome suspicion, criticism, even envy, as signs that you have crossed into a different world. Do not mistake this for cruelty. Separation is not about harming others. It is about refusing their illusions. You need not crush the herd. You simply must stop grazing beside them. Think of the wolf. He does not despise the sheep. He simply refuses to live as one. His nature is different, his instincts sharper, his path set apart. And because of this, he commands the field while they huddle together in fear. Now reflect. Are you ready to sever the values that keep you chained? To reject humility when it is weakness, to abandon fairness when it blocks power, to cast off approval when it costs fortune. Because the moment you do, you will see clearly what the herd cannot. That wealth is not about being good or loved or safe. It is about freedom, and freedom is never granted. It is taken. So decide. Remain among the herd, or separate and claim what few ever dare. But know this separation is only the beginning. For once you leave the herd behind, a greater challenge awaits. The art of commanding money itself, as if it were a servant at your table. Power does not announce itself. It whispers. It bends perception. It directs choices while leaving the illusion of freedom intact. The herd believes they move of their own will. In truth, their strings are pulled by those who understand psychology, fear, and desire. To rule is not to shout commands. It is to make obedience feel voluntary. Remember this: the greatest control is invisible. When people think they are free, they guard you instead of resisting you. When they believe the path is theirs, they walk exactly where you want them. So ask yourself, are you still among the controlled? Or have you begun to see the machinery behind the curtain? If these truths disturb you, good. They are meant to. Now I want to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections, your experiences, your questions below. Subscribe if you wish to learn strategies that most will never dare to know. And share this video so others too may awaken or fall deeper under your command. The choice, as always, is yours.